Hello, scrappers, recyclers, and investors. It is great to be back. You are on Shark Scrapper Live, where we talk about things in the precious metal industry, the industrial metal industry, and stocks that are associated or just happen to be of interest to people that are in the business of scrapping and recycling. It is great to be here. I hope everybody has had a awesome week, or is that an awesome week? Yeah, well, whatever. I'm really looking forward to having some fun today. GCR, welcome. You were first in, followed by Scorpion, Electronic Scrapper, Scrapping Irish, Roger at CU Scrapping, and Dean. How's everybody doing? Great to see you all today. All right, so Roger just sat down with a cold glass of tea. I've got coffee here ready to go. So I think we're all good. I've also got water, so we're good. We're good. AZ Megan, welcome. Great to have you here. Mike, great to see you, Mike. All right, so let's get right into it. Our first topic of the day is precious metals, and today we are going to talk about silver. Hi-ho, silver. Is that a copyright strike? Hey, Earl, how you doing, man? All right, so our 24-hour note here on silver shows that it is down 1.2%. And if we look at the 3-day, we see that it's also down about 1.2%. For the week, we were here. Let's put some lines on here so we can see what we're talking about here. So for the week, we were kind of level, and then we had a little plateau here, and then we had another plateau, and now we're dropping. So I think what this is representing and what my research is suggesting is that when the debt ceiling got worked out, there was a lot less, concern going on, and we're back to the bigger picture of the U.S. economy, recession concerns, and those kind of things that are driving prices here. What's opening up. So, as the dollar keeps getting stronger and the Fed talks about maybe another price hike, that means that the dollar, and bonds or stuff are a good place to put money right now. So that kind of weighs on gold and silver as investment metals. If we look at the month, we got to do this, and then we got to do this. So if we look at the month, we're down 9.7. And for the quarter, we're up 12. But, look at what happened here. We had, we went up for a while, and then we've dropped off for a little bit. But overall, we're still up for the quarter. So, if you were buying into silver early on in the quarter, you're doing pretty good here. And then year to date, so from January through today, it's down 1.45%. That's really not a whole lot. If we go back for a whole year, we see we've had some, ups and downs here, some cyclic maneuvers, but overall it's up 7.8%. JR Cat, welcome. Great to have you here. R. Scott Carlson, welcome. Great to see you here. So, we see silver going up here, and I like to go back here. And the reason I like to go back here is because I was actually able to take advantage of that spike right there to sell off a whole bunch of my silver. And essentially, I sold off about half of my silver holdings and paid for everything else that I had. And then I waited as silver prices came back down, and then I started buying some more silver in here. So, I'm in a pretty good place now. I'm not buying any more physical silver right now. I'm kind of at that place that I want to be for my physical silver holdings. Plus, I've been pouring every spare penny I have into Shark Scrapper as a business. So, I'm sort of holding where I'm at as far as my physical metals are concerned. But generally speaking, if you're going to buy silver, you want to buy when it's in the low 20s these days. And so I started looking at, when we look at, let's go back to this 1 year mark here. If we go back and look at this, at what's been happening for the year, we see we've got some ups and downs, and you take a look at this, you've got prices going down, prices going up, prices going down a little bit more, prices going back up, prices going down. That happens, right? That's what goes on in this market as a regular thing, that cyclical motion. Now, some people try to time it out and buy during those low points and sell during the high points. I'm not one of those kind of investors. I'm a buy and hold kind of person. So for me, I don't play that game. But overall, this isn't, this is the kind of thing where you kind of scratch your head and you say, all right, but what's really going on with silver here? And what's the forecast for silver? Because that's, if you're buying it as an investment, you're trying to look ahead. Well, I went in and I checked a lot of the sources and the folks that claim to understand what's going on and what their forecast. And I actually found this pretty interesting. One, there was a pretty good level of consistency among people saying that for 2023, silver is probably going to be in the range of 25-ish to 65-ish. Now, I kind of scratched my head at that whole 65-ish thing. It's like, really? I mean, that seems like it's kind of a lot. And those were high-end kind of numbers. I think really what we're looking at is we're going to be in the mid to high 20s. We might get that spike. And, if you see that spike, go for it. Personally, I don't think that kind of spike is going to happen. I think we're going to see more of this, up and down with a gradual rise in silver. But hey, you want to be looking out for that spike, because that spike could be a good place to sell off a bunch. So, don't just ignore it. A lot of times people think of buy and hold as buy and ignore. You don't want to do that, because if you buy and ignore, then what happens is you miss when these things happen. And you don't want to miss when those things happen, because even if you're a buy and hold kind of person, you want to, take advantage of spikes should they happen, and, sell off some of your silver so that the silver that you then have is essentially free, right? So it's a great way to do that. Gaz is saying, if you here, wait a minute, let's highlight Gaz's comment here. If you overlay that graph against the previous years, I think you'll find that they're all very similar with the ups and downs are. And I think, yeah, well, and that's what essentially when we look at, we've got this, we're on all of we're going back to 92, and early on here, here we go. So if you look at the mid 90s into the early 2000s, you don't have a whole lot of gyrations. I mean, that's a relatively flat line. But when you start looking at these time frames, in here, you've got a lot of up and down. And then here you had a lot of up and down that was layered on top of this overall down signal. So there's always going to be the ups and downs, that cyclical motion that's layered on top of an overall trend. And right now, what we're seeing is a slowly rising overall trend. So you want to look for those spike to be able to make yourself a little bit when and if it comes, so you can make that. And I'm kind of hesitant to throw out forecasts for these kind of things because unlike when I was doing forecasting of weather and oceanography for the Navy, we had some geophysical models that we could understand when we see these conditions. This is what's likely going to happen in the next 3 to 5 to 10 days. Yeah, when you're talking about humans, and you're talking about the chaos of an industrial marketplace and the potential, the implications of wars and those kind of things, it gets really difficult to make similar kind of forecasts. So I thought it was interesting that, you know, for the most part, the analysts are all saying look for the mid to high 20s, but there are potentials for a spike up in the 60-ish range. So I think the most important thing to take away there is when you see silver in the low 20s, go ahead and get it. It's probably a good investment, and keep an eye out for that spike. My personal plan would be if I see a spike at, you know, if I see silver get above 50, I'm going to sell off a bunch of silver so that I can help pay off what I've been purchasing for a few years. So, all right, let's see. Scorpion Metals is weighing in here, and he's big in this. Safe forecast for silver, it will be between 16 and 33, with it moving up and down when it feels like it. Yeah, but what's the fun of being safe? I mean, come on, we want to get out on a limb, right? That's good to share that, Scorpion. Yeah, if I saw silver drop down into the teens, I'd absolutely be buying if silver gets down in the teens. No kidding. Okay, so any questions or thoughts about silver before we move on here? You know, I know that a bunch of you have silver. Roger made the comment a little bit early on here. Let's see, where was Roger's comment? I might not be able to find it now. Oh yeah, here we are. So Roger made the comment that the only silver he owns is industrial contacts. So you still got to process that silver. And, you know, it's a good point, and to, you know, for a little bit of discussion here, because you can't, you know, you've got a challenge when you own silver in that way, because it's not like owning bullion, silver rounds or bars from a mint that has been stamped, that a buyer, an investor, a coin shop, somebody would buy from you with, you know, with a reasonable premium. When you own it as an industrial thing, whether it's a contact or whatever, it's a little bit more difficult to sell, and you may not get as much money as you would like to for it. But it was free. So come on, free is always good. So when you get those kind of things, yeah, it's, you know, hanging on to them is good, because when you have those, there are going to be people that when silver prices increase, they're going to say, oh, I want to buy that stuff so I can refine some silver, and there's your market for selling it. All righty, so it's an interesting thing, and you know, I mean, I like silver because the prices of silver in the 20s, you know, it feels good to be able to buy 10, 20 ounces where you can't do that with gold, right? So. All right, well, let's get on, move along here. Now we're going to talk about our safety note for the day. And this one's a little bit different, because we're not talking physical safety here. What we're going to talk about is passwords. All of us have some sort of online presence, whether it's your YouTube channel, whether it's a website, whether it's your banking, your credit cards. You know, we all have online presence. And every single instance of our online presence requires a password to identify us and set us aside. So you absolutely want to make sure that you have passwords that are not easy. They're not basic words. Most times now, hey Nick, great to see you here, Nick Burns, and I'm going to get back to your comment here in just a minute. So you know, a lot of people will have the same password for every single one of their online presence, and that's not a good idea, right? Because all it takes is the bad guys to figure out to hack in once, and now they've got every single one of your online applications. Now, a lot of times, your things like your bank and your credit card and such, they're moving to two-aspect authentication, right? So when you go ahead and log in, and even after you put your password in, then it sends a note to a text to your phone, and then you have to then put in the code that they sent to your phone. The idea is that if I'm let's say I'm a hacker, right, and I'm one of those lowly scumbags who has nothing better to do in life but hack into other accounts and steal stuff from them. Okay, I figured out your your password on your bank account, and then but you have two-factor authentication established. So the bank sends a text to me. I get this text and I say, wait a minute, I'm not trying to log into my bank account. What's going on? So bam, you can shut them down. So if, especially for your banking and your credit cards and stuff, you always want to use two-factor authentication if you have any chance. So Scorpion, take care, man. We'll see you later on, bud. So yeah, you definitely want to have that two-factor authentication, and you want to have a complicated password. Don't make it easy. Probably one of the best compliments that I've received in quite some time was from the company that I hired to start managing my website. And when I gave the guy my password, he's like, oh my God, I think that's the most complicated password of anybody that I've been doing business with for a long time now. So you absolutely want to make sure that you have a complex password, and that you have two-factor authentication set up. And this is also important. Just because a particular website, online presence doesn't seem like it's that big a deal, you got to really be careful, because sometimes these hackers can use getting into one place that's real easy to wiggle into other places. So, because they'll learn about you, and then they'll use AI to then get an idea of, well, what kind of passwords might he use? Might this person, default to, and things like that. So be as random as you can. Make sure you have complex websites, and anything that you're doing that affects your immediate money, like banks and credit cards. If you do that online, make sure you have two-factor authentication enabled. All right, so I want to get back to, let's see, a comment that Nick Burns made when he joined us. Periods of political uncertainty provide a catalyst for silver going up. Yeah, absolutely. So that's definitely a good reason for silver to be moving along here. Let's see, we had some comments on our discussion of passwords. JR Caddy says he does not like to use cards or bank online. Yeah, I hear you. Sometimes you have no choice anymore in this day and age. You always have the choice, right? You don't have to do it, but it can get kind of complicated if you don't have any kind of online way to handle things. I've got some of my bills that just get paid automatically. I have some of my bills that they send me an alert that says, here's what your bill is. If you agree, go ahead and, process the bill. I've got others that I will pay. I will go into the bank or the credit card and enable the payment myself. So it makes it faster and easier. But there's a price for faster and easier, right? And that is that your risk, you have some security risk that you need to pay attention to. JR Cat says he has one card, only has $500 limit. That's a real good way to limit the downside of someone hacking into it, right? You just set a limit on the card, and then, if they do hack in, there's only so much damage they can do. Let's see. Let's see. So, Roger, you bring up a really good point. What's the best way of keeping track of all those passwords? That's I write mine down. I've got a place here where I've got my passwords written down so that I can refer to them when I log into them. And that's if somebody breaks into the house, well, they might find my password stash, and I could be in real trouble. But let's face it, if they break into my house, they've already ripped off a bunch of stuff. And if I ever did have a home invasion, yeah, I'd be going out and shutting down all my passwords and those kind of things. So, it's that would be an issue. And yeah, it makes it difficult, right? If I want to try to access something online while I am on the road, yeah, that can make it a little bit difficult. Now, there's all kinds of software you can put on your phone, right? Where you've got like your electronic wallet and it can log you in. Man, that seems like that's pretty risky too, for getting hacked. Of course, now we've got facial recognition, and so the phone knows who I am, and that can make it a little safer too. I don't claim to have the best answers, and it's certainly you have to do what you're comfortable with. Scrap It All says, how often do you change your passwords? So with critical things like my banking and credit cards, I have sort of a randomness built into. I get an alert that says change your password. So I try not to do it on a regular schedule, because anything that's regular is yet another tool for bad guys to use. And then sometimes my bank or my credit card will say, you might want to change your password. It's been a while. And then if I start getting a bunch of spammy kind of emails saying, asking me for things or suggesting that maybe somebody has learned a little bit more about me than I would like them to, I'll go in and change some of my critical passwords. So, there's a bit of that kind of stuff that you need to pay attention to as well. Let's see. Freaking Awesome says, I had to end all my memberships for the reason they were supposed to get a confirmation before applying the change, and they've automatically. Oh yeah, that's it. I've got one out there that I thought I had enabled confirmation, and then it re-upped anyway. So I got to go back and check that. But that's a really good point there, that you got to pay attention to your memberships, because there's things that we join up to and we set the credit card to pay it off, and it just happens every year. And at some point you might want to take a look at that. I've recently noticed some software that's being advertised that'll go out and find these memberships for you. Of course, I find them too when they show up on my credit card, and then I make a note and I put it in my calendar, reevaluate next year and those kind of things. So that's a good one too that you got to pay attention to. And then, of course, the flip side of that happens is you have a credit card stolen or compromised. And so now you got to remember everything that was under that credit card so that you can go back and turn those things back on again when you get the new card. The bank will sometimes carry those through for you, but a lot of times you've got to do it yourself. So this is why I think we need stricter laws when it comes to hackers. I'm thinking flailing, maybe skinning and drawing and quartering would be a good idea. I don't know. I just, I'm all in favor of stricter laws and public punishment of hackers. Yeah. Yeah, I know what you're saying, right? Don't ever save lists of passwords on anything that can be hacked, right? And so, yeah, I think that, my paper copy here probably can't be hacked unless somebody breaks into my house. And if they break into my house, well, I've got this awesome watchdog that's going to lick them to death. So, I'm pretty safe there. Oh, man. All right. So I think we've had a good discussion of passwords, and with anybody that, that you weren't sure of something, man, go back and check your passwords, right? All right. So let's move along now to our industrial metal discussion for today. Now, there's a story about why I chose lead. So I was looking into doing some research on other things to recycle, and while I was doing that, I came across some interesting sites that talked about lead and recycling and battery recycling, and I was really surprised to learn that lead acid batteries, like we have, in our cars, are between 90 and 100% recycled. To me, that's just an amazing number when you think about all of the lead acid batteries that are out there. And so I kind of was thinking to myself, why would lead acid batteries have such a high recycling rate? And then and it's like, because every time you buy a new car battery, the place that you're buying it from, they either charge you a coring fee or you have to trade your old battery in so you don't get charged that core fee. So they have financially motivated people to turn in their lead acid batteries. And then you have folks like us that are out there, trying to, if we find lead acid batteries anywhere, we're turning them back in to get them recycled. So there's just a very good infrastructure in place to recycle lead in the form of lead acid batteries. I think that really contributes to why lead is such a recycled material. And I mean, the numbers are amazing. The amount of lead that is recycled that supports US manufacturing, European manufacturing, is anywhere from 75 to 100% of the material that goes into a new lead product came from a recycled material. That's better than aluminum cans, by the way. So that to me speaks volumes of what's going on with lead and lead recycling. So I thought it'd be fun to take a look then at the lead, at prices for lead, because you would think that if it's being recycled, how does that compare to what we're getting, right? So anyway, lead on the 24-hour is down just a little bit, but relatively stable at just under $1 a pound. And then the 30-day spot, we see lead coming down some. And the 60-day spot, lead was up a little bit, but still coming down. So that downward trend is kind of persistent. Here's the 6-month lead spot price. And we can see going from peak to peak, lead is still dropping. It's hard to do a base to base because the bases went down and then the bases went up here, and now the bases are dropping again. But overall, we see that we had this spike and then it started back, what was that, in early December, and it's overall been dropping here. So on the year, we don't see a whole lot, right? I mean, we're kind of bouncing, we're kind of bouncing around here. We had this, a lot of gyrations going on here early on, and now it's the movement has gotten, the frequency of the movement has gone up, but it's over, it's right now we're seeing the prices overall trending down here in our time frame. And then let's look at the 5-year. Oops, this one. So if we look at the 5-year, here's these fluctuations going on. What we can see is we're coming out of, as we come out of COVID, we see, how about, let's not use such a great big old line. So we come out of COVID, we see prices coming back up for lead as the world starts manufacturing again. We've seen this with a lot of other metals. And then the world says, okay, well, maybe we're not making as much as we really need to. And so prices drop off and then they're back up as what's happening. Automobiles are back in. We're starting to build more automobiles and the parts for automobiles. And that's what's one of the things that that made a lot of sense to me as I was looking into this is, the primary user of lead is the automobile industry, primarily in the batteries for the cars. So as cars are being sold, we see more lead batteries, lead acid batteries being used. And so we can see that there is more of a consumption for a while that it goes up. But now the car markets, we've all seen car markets are having some challenges. So that's probably attributing to some of this downward trend. Of course, we love to look at what's happening with the inventory of lead. And we see that the 30-day London Metal Exchange inventory is going up. And of course, whenever inventory goes up, you naturally expect prices to go down, right? So 60-day inventory is continuing to go up. 6-month inventory is going up. Here we had in the 1 year, the inventory was consumed a bit, but now it's climbing back up again. So, this speaks to a lot of why we're seeing the prices not really, they're dropping, but overall, the movement hasn't been huge with lead prices. So, the question that I would like to throw out there for us to chew on a little bit is, if lead is such a recycled material, how much of the inventory that when we see this London Metal Exchange inventory, and let's just go back here to the 1 year. So let's go here to the 1 year. How much of this recovery of inventory here is recycled lead? And why would we have this dip if we're recycling so much lead? Why wasn't it getting into the warehouses on a regular basis? Maybe some of the bigger recycling facilities were holding on to their lead to have prices recover a little bit. And let's see, did we see anything in the prices that our yards were paying us that might suggest that that they were, not pushing a bunch of lead into the inventory so that they could get some price recovery? Now, I don't know how many of you are regularly selling lead acid batteries enough to be able to see some fluctuations that, were systemic to your selling of lead and such. I didn't see a whole lot of change in the lead prices for my yard, my non-ferrous yard. They were relatively consistent. And when I go there, and I go there every week, it's not like I saw pallets of lead acid batteries stacking up. So at least from that mid-tier kind of position, I didn't see a whole lot of game playing, stacking lead acid batteries to try to run the prices a little bit. But I would love to see what you all may have seen in your yards. So let's see here now. Let's go to back to the comments here, and we say JR Cat is saying he'll sell his gold and silver before he sells his lead. Okay, all right, that's cool. JR Cat, why? I'm just curious. What's running through your head that you're going to save your lead, but you would sell your gold and silver first? I would love to. I'd love to get that. What? Shark uses a Mac? What are you talking about? I don't use a Mac. I don't use a Mac. I'm not sure who gave you that idea, but nope. Nope, 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 nope. No Mac. No Mac for the shark. I scrap them. That's what I do. I scrap them. GCR says marine grade lead pays the best for me. Okay, cool. You might want to explain what you mean by marine grade lead so that other folks know what you're talking about. And let's see. All right, so you're responding to somebody's comment here, but yeah, a lot of the slugs are either lead or they have lead, and that's actually kind of a big deal for for some folks is that you've got lead bullets, and so you shoot somebody gets shot, now they got lead poisoning, so then there's so folks talk about that a lot. But lead is such a good material to use for a bullet. And then you just, if you're at a targeting range, your rod and gun club or target range, you're probably shooting into some sort of berm or some sort of back that's going to catch that lead, and then you can collect it up again. So, thanks, Nick. Nice mug. Or are you talking about this mug? Let's see. Well, wait a minute. What do you mean you can't cast silver bullets, man? How are you going to get rid of the vampires when they come after you? Huh? Come on. GCR is saying he doesn't sell his batteries to the scrap yards because he's found core buyers. Yeah, and I had somebody made a comment on one of my videos recently where they trade their batteries in at one of the auto parts shops, and they get the store credit because they get the like $10 or something like that. And I did some quick math for the average price of a battery and what I'm getting paid. And if I did the same thing, I would actually get a little bit more in value, but I'd have to remember to go back and use the store credit at the auto dealer. So that's a and I'm notoriously bad about using my store credit anywhere. So it's definitely something to think about, though. If you have automobile batteries, check with your local auto shop dealers, because maybe you're going to get more from core value than you would otherwise. So, okay, you're forgiven. It's cool. I'll let you go. I'm not gonna. You're forgiven. Making the Mac comment. Yeah. All right, skids and scrap. Could the amount of lead pipe used for public finally be done being replaced? Who knows how much? Yeah, that's a big deal, right? I've recently read some articles here in Florida about talking about lead pipe in Florida and the fact that they're going to have to replace a lot of that too. So I don't think that we're done replacing all the lead pipe in the United States. I think there's still plenty out there. So, hey, let's get in touch, man. Let's follow up on that, okay? When you have a moment. All right. So, that's just werewolves? I thought so. Oh, yeah. I guess you're right. Right. It's wooden stakes, so you'd need wooden bullets for vampires and silver bullets for werewolves. So, okay. So, yeah. All right. Yeah. How many silver bullets do you really need, right? How many werewolves are running around out there? I mean, come on. All right. So, anyway, okay. Let's get on to our business note for the day. So it's kind of related to the password comment that I made. And when I was talking about passwords, one of the things I said was a website. So, I'm curious how many of you have a website, right? So I have sharkscrapper.com, and every once in a while when I find something that I want to try to resell, I can put it up on sharkscrapper.com. And it's a good place for me to post my prices so that people that want to bring stuff to me know what I'm going to pay for the scrap that they bring to me. So, I have a website, and, when I get bigger, then I'm going to have to use that website a bit more. And one of the things that I recently did was, so I created my website myself. I got Elementor. I bought the subscription to Elementor. I learned about how to make websites. I got my domain name. I did all this stuff on my own, found a web host, all that kind of stuff. That was very interesting. I'm glad I did it because I learned a lot about making a website and managing a website and updating the websites. But I also quickly figured out that I don't have enough time to devote to my website the way it needs to be managed, much less constant oversight of the website, to look for people trying to hack into it and those kind of things. So I have recently contracted with a website management company, design and management company through the Business Networking International group that I belong to. This new company, they tweaked up my website. They got it looking quite, a bit better than what I had done on my own. And it is so much easier now, because when I want to change something, I just, write an email to the project manager for my website and say, hey, let's try this, or here's a new price list, or I'm going to, I want to put whatever it is up for sale. We're still working on the best way to manage the sales side of the website. So we're going to work on that a bit more. But I have decided that I'm going to have somebody take care of it for me. Now, that's an investment, right? There's a monthly cost that I pay them. This particular group, the way they work their website management is I pay a monthly fee, and they do everything that I need done, whatever has to be done. They're also monitoring my website on a regular basis. They're hosting the website in a secure place that used to be a missile facility and those kind of things. So I don't have to worry about my website at all anymore. They're taking care of it. I mean, I still go in and monitor it because I want to make sure they're taking care of it, but I don't have to spend all of my time, doing the nuts and bolts of website management. So how many of you all have your own website? And if you have your own website, what are you doing with your website? Are you the one who is doing everything with your website, or do you have somebody helping you with your website? And again, there's no wrong answer to this, right? It all depends on, what you're doing with a website. Do you even need a website? If you're not in business, you don't need a website, right? I mean, come on. I know there's some people that like to have a website for the family to get, share information and stuff like that. But really, if you're not doing this as a business, you don't need a website. And even if you're doing it as a business, if you're a small-time scrapper, yeah, you probably still don't need a website. So it's just something to think about. I've got the website going because I intend to use it more as I grow. So that's why I've got my website going. So, hey, Simon, great to have you here. And Loafer, I don't know if I said hello yet. Loafer, I may have missed you coming in. Jill Pedersen, welcome. Great to see you. Great to have you here. So let's see. What do we got here? Simon is saying he's been, I've been in web hosting and websites for 20 years. Okay, very cool. So Simon, that's what you do for a living? People pay you to host and manage their websites? That's pretty cool. And it's an interesting skill. I'm glad that I tried to do it myself for a while, because now I have a better understanding. When the guy that's managing my website or one of his people calls me, I have a better understanding of what they're saying to me. I won't claim to be an expert by any stretch whatsoever, but at least now I can talk with them at a moderate level of intelligence, and so we can have a good conversation, and I'm not scratching my head going, huh? What language are you talking? Oh, man. Roger, I had a website with my construction business, but yeah, it can, right? If you're going to do it right, man, it takes a lot of time. Your tech support. Okay, great. Awesome. So, folks, if you have any questions about your tech support, give Simon a call. Oh, I shouldn't do that. That's not fair. That's not fair. Oh man. All right, freaking awesome. Time to get to work, man. Later on, bud. It was great having you here. Have a great day. Um, oh, and Simon, yeah, services to build websites and projects. Oh, very cool, man. That is so cool. All right, so with that, then it's time to move on to the next phase of our discussion for this week. Sorry, I was looking at Jill's comment. All right, I'm gonna have to share it with you. All right. So she's a scrapping Irish. The week you took off, so I wanted to tease Ian about his Papa Smurf paint job. But she's referring to Ian Matthews. If you haven't subscribed to Ian's channel, you want to do that because Ian's a crack up. The man just he is funny. I mean, sometimes he's a metal artiste, sometimes he's a scrapper, sometimes he's a micro scrapper, but he's always Ian, and he's always funny. Oh man! All right, so our stock discussion for the week. Again, remember, all of this comes out of data that I get from the Value Line Investment Survey. And they do not take any advertising dollars. So it's all data and analysis of data, unbiased by any influence from advertising. And I like that because, they can speak as plain as they need to. And this week, we had some really cool industries: the petroleum industry, the natural gas industry, the natural gas utility companies. We had chemical industries, and then we had some wireless stuff in here and pipeline companies. So it was kind of more of a energy kind of based focus. So that brings us to the point of what I asked in my title is, should you have petroleum or should you have natural gas in your inventory? So let's hop on over here to our first company that we're going to look at, Chevron. And again, I want to emphasize that frequently you have to separate yourself from the do you like the company to is the company a good investment. Now, there are some people who say, I don't care, I'm not going to own stock in something that I feel that strongly about, and that's cool. Absolutely, nothing wrong with that. And the way that I tend to look at this is that by owning stock in some of these companies, so for instance, a oil and gas company, I have a seat at the table. I have some influence. I don't have a lot of influence in a company as big as Chevron or anything like that, but I have influence to say to them, I want you to be, when I vote my shares, which are just a few, I can push towards being more environmentally responsible. So there's a couple of sides to take on, should you own stock in some of these companies? GCR, he's got to go later on, bud. Have a good weekend, man, and a good week. All right, so with that said, let's get right into Chevron. So we can see that they're almost at 4% for their dividend yield. So that's cool. And it's on $157-ish, so it's not terribly expensive. So not too bad there. They are not qualified for cash flow per share or earnings per share. You can see they had all these negative years here, but they are qualified for dividends per share. And they've actually increased their dividends every year for a lot more than 17 years. So they're a reasonable dividend player. They're relatively consistent. And even when their earnings per share dipped below their dividend rates, they still kept their dividends consistently increasing. So Chevron, a reasonably good player in that for dividend investment. The other potential player here for you is ExxonMobil. And again, just like Chevron, they are, close to 4%. They're reasonably expensive, reasonably affordable at a little over $100 a share. They are not qualified in their cash flow per share or their earnings per share, but they are qualified in dividends per share. They are a Div 0, and just like Chevron, they have increased their dividends per share every year for more than 17 years. So here's another reasonable company to have some shares in. And this looks a lot like Chevron's chart, doesn't it? So the same thing here. Even when their earnings per share dip below what they were paying for dividends per share, they kept paying out. Now, these are petroleum companies. And what's funny is, of the petroleum companies, these guys have passed my muster for for meeting this very rigorous approach that I take to governing, to making decisions to buy into a particular company or not. Now, another company that I look at is another part of the energy companies are natural gas. And this company is one that I think you all will find really interesting if you haven't looked at them already. It's a company called UGI. Now, I want to read some of this to you because, you look at that dividend, 5.3%. That is a pretty healthy dividend. That's better than the 4% that I normally want to look at. And you look at the valid price at 28, they're very reasonable. So a lot of folks could get into this stock. They're not qualified by cash flow or earnings per share, but they are qualified as a Div 0. So they have increased their dividends per share every year for over 17 years. Now, here's what I like about UGI. So the I in UGI is international, right? So they have AmeriGas Propane in the United States. They have UGI International. They have a gas utility and midstream and marketing. So they're all over the world. And the reason why that's important is because as climate change is going on, there are some places like in the United States that had warmer winters. And when you have a warmer winter, the natural gas prices don't do as well because later on, Loafer, take care, man. Great having you here. JCT, how you doing, man? Great to see you here, man. When one country has warm, as the, like the U.S. had warmer winters, so propane and natural gas prices dropped a little bit because the demand wasn't as high, but because UGI is international, they were able to make some profits up over in Europe because, unfortunately, because of what's going on with Russia and Ukraine and such, natural gas prices have been elevated over in Europe. So because they're international and because they do propane, natural gas, they do pipeline as well as tankage, they are doing well. And if we look at their track record, you can see they've had perhaps a bit less volatility than what we saw with Exxon and Chevron. There's still a bit of bouncing around here, COVID kind of influences here. But overall, they've had a pretty good, consistent upward track. Again, from reading from the analysis that the folks at Value Line did, they're saying that UGI is offering deep value for both medium and long-term accounts. So they're saying that the prices are down right now. It's a good time to buy in, and you're going to make out over the long haul. At the midpoint of our 18-month price projections, UGI stock is set to gain 55%. Further on, investors have the potential for above average long-term capital appreciation, and it has the attractive dividend yield. So for me, it's primarily the dividend yield, but there's also some good potential for long-term gains. So if you invest in stocks and if you are interested in some energy stocks, UGI is one that you may want to take a closer look at. Now, to be completely transparent with everybody, I own shares of Exxon, Chevron, and UGI. Probably doesn't surprise you given that they're qualified under my basis and they've got some decent dividends. So just want to make sure you understand that. Plus, I want to emphasize that I am not a financial counselor. I am not licensed, certified, or in any way, any of that legal stuff that allows me to tell people how to invest. I'm just sharing with you how I invest and the things that I look for when I'm investing. And I don't mind sharing with you when I talk about a company that I own stock in. It only seems like it's appropriate. So now I want to compare UGI, which is an international natural gas and propane company, with a company that is primarily here in the United States, Suburban Propane. Suburban Propane, if you looked at them, and I don't have them up on a chart right now because they're not qualified. But if you look at their yield, it's 8.6%. That's a pretty substantial yield for Suburban Propane. But because they are a U.S. based and they don't have an international client base, they've been having some challenges because in the U.S. we've had some warmer winters and we've had some natural disasters that have really been giving them a hard time. So, but they're a good company. They still have been able to keep their prices reasonably stable. They've been able to negotiate some of these challenging times here, and they're still paying out pretty good rates. Now, I say they're not qualified. They're not qualified for anything, cash flow, earnings, or dividends per share. Their dividends per share right now is up at 8.6%, but they have had times when their dividends went negative, when they paid less, they weren't even flat. And that disqualifies them from, my consideration. That said, I bought into Suburban Propane back at a time when they were qualified, and when they fell off of the qualified list because they marked their dividends, they didn't pay as much one year. I just kept the stock. I didn't sell it. I kept it because I knew that they were still a good company in the baseline. So Suburban Propane is also a reasonable but not qualified company to look at. All right. So hey, JR Cat, thank you. That's very nice. Better info here for free than what you pay for. Well, I don't know. I mean, I appreciate the compliment. Means a lot to me. But again, understand that this is just what I do when I'm looking at stocks and things. So you all, if you're going to invest in any of these stocks, I urge you to do your own due diligence and make those decisions carefully before you spend any of your money on a company, because buying individual stocks can have its own risk. Any company out there can make a bad decision in any number of ways that can hurt your investment. So be very careful when you buy into individual companies. But again, that's why I'm so strict with companies that I do invest in, because I put them through the ringer before I'll invest my money in them, with the 17-year requirement of cash flow, earnings, or dividends per share always increasing. So we have had a very good discussion here, and I really appreciated all the good comments that have yeah, right. That's going to happen. Yeah, not in this lifetime. So, really appreciate all the comments. One thing that I do want to just take a real quick note to emphasize, I don't get into politics here. You all know that. And there are some times when politics influences, the world of scrapping and recycling. And those are important things that sometimes we have to touch on politics from the perspective of its impact. But I don't talk politics. Okay. So I'm not going to, I don't take a stand on it. And, everybody's politics is your own. The one thing that I would encourage everybody to do is when you are looking at, if you're looking at the stock market, be careful applying your political position to making an investment in a company, even though, there's some balancing that goes on there. So just again, like everything, be careful before you invest in any companies that are out there. I had a great time today. I really enjoyed sharing all of this with you. And I look forward to having some more fun with you as we move over to Scrapping Irish's live stream. Remember, if you have autoplay enabled, when I terminate this live stream, you will automatically be taken over to Scrapping Irish's live stream. We can continue to have some fun over there. If you do not have autoplay enabled, then I don't know if you get a link or you get nothing or what happens, but if you don't have autoplay enabled, go check out, just go on Google, go on YouTube, look for Scrapping Irish, click on the live stream announcement. We'll be spending a bit more time over there talking with Scrapping Irish and all of our friends in a little more relaxed kind of way, a little more open forum with a panel and stuff like that. So I look forward to seeing you all over there. If I don't see you over there, have a wonderful week and stay safe.